In fact, today, during discussions, while they were in conference and while they were caucusing, there were open disagreements with Cantor and Boehner in regards to why this bill should even be allowed to reach the floor, why they should even vote for amendments, why they should even make an effort. They should just, again, leave the Senate to work on the bill that they've already passed, the bill that the House has already passed. It is asinine to expect the American people to expect this deal. Now, by rights, if the House can postpone a vote for just a couple more days, well, then the lame duck session of this last bit of Congress will expire. They'll be done. Then we'll have a short break. We'll have the swearing in of the new representatives and senators, and the next Congress will start. That's important in so much as if this deal isn't done on both sides before the end of it, then it's gone. It just evaporates into thin air. So the new Congress gets to start all over. The drawing board is fresh and clear. If you're Karl Rove, your little whiteboard is perfectly white. Nobody's drawn anything on it yet. That could be a good thing, because it could force these people to explain to their constituency how on earth any of them believe this to be a good deal. I mean, the forced sequesters might almost be better, but ladies and gentlemen, look at what's happened. They didn't deal with the issue. This is even further proof that the whole idea of a fiscal cliff was a fraud from the beginning. They got together and agreed to move it down the road a little further. Again, keep kicking the can, keep kicking the can. That's all these people have ever done. They won't take a stand. You have a small group primarily made up of the Tea Party. Ooh, I'm scared. Those guys are radicals. The Tea Party candidates that are caucusing in the House, trying to draw our government back to constitutionally limited government, trying to force some measure of fiscal responsibility back onto our government. These people are being made out as dangerous radicals when all they're doing is standing up for the principles of conservative, constitutionally limited government that knows to get out of the way of the American people. Honest, hard-working, law-abiding American citizens have the knowledge, the know-how, the gumption to work their way out of almost any problem. Throughout history, the American people have drawn on their strengths, and they have sacrificed, and they have done what has needed to be done to make this nation the most prosperous, quite simply the greatest nation the world has ever seen, and in an extremely short amount of time in comparison to what other nations have done. The people who find fault, the people who find issue with what this country has done and what this country is capable of doing are the so-called progressives, the Blame America First crowd. These people all want to introduce the utopian society, completely and totally oblivious to the fact that utopia doesn't exist anywhere, and it can't be anywhere on this planet ran by human beings up until the time that humanity evolves past the capability of corruption. We're not there yet, ladies and gentlemen. We're not anywhere near there. Go back to the wonderful book Animal Farm. The example is there. When they're giving the pretty speeches and planning the revolutions, all animals are equal. After the revolution is over and the farmer's not in charge anymore, well, then suddenly you go back and read that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. That is the way these people think. Make no mistake about it. They want to take away your guns so that you cannot possibly defend yourself, not just from the threat that you may be facing from the common street crime, but also so that you don't have the ability to stand up and say, not me, not today, I'm an American. Well, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Tap Into the Truth. Let's continue with our discussion of the fiscal cliff political theater. I want to remind you again, part of what I mentioned in yesterday's broadcast, these selected members of the middle class that stood behind Obama and applauded on cue. Did you take the time, like I asked you, to use your brain and think about where these people came from, who they really are, or who they might be? Bottom line is, there is a background check that every American citizen has to go through to get anywhere near the president. This check takes roughly about 2 weeks to go through. So these people would have had to have been pre-screened. So the occupier of the White House was well aware that he was going to have this particular news conference. He may not have had all the details worked out as far as what he was going to say, but this wasn't just some random act of people who just spontaneously showed up to show support for the great work and effort that the occupier-in-chief has been doing. He is using political theater. He's very astute at political theater. The bottom line is, the only full part of our government that is still working the way it's supposed to is the House of Representatives. And the only reason that it's working is because in the past 2 elections, the American people have saw fit to send citizen politicians to hold these offices. Not the career politicians, but honest to goodness, Tea Party, everyday citizens who run small businesses, who are reasonably well educated, and who understand that the best thing a government can do for helping to improve the economy is to get out of the way of business. Stop trying to regulate every last detail. The power grab that has taken place at the executive branch level is terrifying for anyone who's paying attention. But the important thing to remember is our Constitution is still relevant. Our Constitution was inspired by God. Every Christian church in the world, let alone just America, should teach not just the Bible, but also should take a realistic look at both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, because these documents were inspired by a higher power. But each and every step of the way, what our founding fathers actually fought over was trying to determine the best possible ways to protect the sovereignty, keeping that in the hands of the people, keeping the citizens the source of sovereignty. By that, what I mean is, in case you don't understand, the authority to govern. That's why we created a republic instead of just a democracy. Because what happens? First of all, as a nation as large as ours expanded, it would be nearly impossible to get enough people together to vote. You would never have even close to a majority present to vote. But by having representatives, we can select those representatives and they can go vote the way we want them to vote, and our voice is still heard. We determine at this level, and then they carry out our will at that level. Even the much maligned presidential election process where we have the electoral college was just one more step to try and keep the majority from being misled. The assumption being, under the old system, when the people that were selected to go were done so based on the brightest, smartest, and the folks who knew the most about the issues, instead of, okay, well, automatically whoever wins this vote automatically gets this delegate. The people that are delegates to the electoral college now would never dream of voting opposed to who they committed to go vote for. That wasn't the way it was intended to be. These people were, again, selected to be representatives of the people where they came from. That helped to reduce the possibility of tremendous cases of voter fraud affecting the best possible outcome. All these steps were taken in order to try and keep the sovereignty in the hands of the individual. The government only governs through the consent of the governed. That is the basic premise. That is the concept. That is the only way you have true liberty. And the more you let your government do for you, the less freedom, the less liberty you're going to have. Ladies and gentlemen, I preach constitutionally limited government and individual liberty till I am blue in the face and people still don't get it. If you do understand it, then believe me when I tell you we are under assault. We are seen as the enemy by the people who are currently in power. Party politics has taken over where doing the job of running the country has disappeared. We have to stand up and elect even more people like those Tea Party Republicans in the House, and we need to start putting them in the Senate. And we've got to find a way to make sure that the people we vote for actually get to go into office. These voter fraud cases have to be dealt with, and they have to be dealt with firmly. Ladies and gentlemen, there's just no two ways about it. If we want things to get better, we're going to have to start doing the hard work. This deal that was offered to the House was a horrible deal. We can do better. We've got to do better. That's about all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll be back to listen in again. Have a great night, everybody.